The news broke suddenly, and within minutes the entire world seemed to freeze. Malcolm-Jamal Warner, the actor who played Theo Huxtable on The Cosby Show, was reported dead. For many, the shock felt unreal, almost impossible to process. He was more than just an actor. He was a part of our living rooms, our childhoods, and our families. For millions of viewers, Theo wasn't a stranger on a screen. He was the goofy big brother, the lovable son, the young man who stumbled through mistakes but always found his way back with laughter and love. When people say that his death left the world shattered, it isn't an exaggeration. The grief spread like a wave, deep and personal, as if we had lost someone sitting right beside us on the couch. No one was hit harder than Phylicia Rashad, the actress who played Clair Huxtable, Theo's mother on the show. To fans, she was America's mom, but to Malcolm, she was more than a co-star. She was his second mother, his guide, his anchor in both the make-believe world of television and the very real storms of life. When she received the devastating call, she collapsed. Witnesses described her clutching the gold chain Malcolm had given her in 1988, the year they filmed one of the show's most emotional season finales. She never took it off, not in 36 years, and in that moment of loss, it became the last physical piece of him she could hold onto. As she fell to her knees, tears streaming, she screamed words that would echo across the internet within hours. "No, not my baby, not my Theo." Those 6 words cracked open the hearts of millions. She wasn't acting, and it wasn't for cameras. It was raw pain, the pain of a mother losing her son, not by blood, but in every way that mattered. The heartbreak deepened when a voicemail from Malcolm was discovered and played aloud. His voice trembled, heavy with emotion. "Mom, if I don't wake up one day, just know you were my only light in the dark. You kept me going when I didn't want to go on." The room fell silent. Crew members, producers, even hardened industry veterans, all were left in tears. People who had worked with celebrities for decades, who thought they'd seen it all, were overwhelmed. It was not just the passing of a famous actor. It felt like the death of a generation's innocence, the fading of a guiding light. Fans across the globe poured out their grief. On TikTok, Twitter, and Instagram, clips of Theo hugging his TV mom flooded timelines, each one feeling like a goodbye no one was ready for. Hashtags like #NotMyTheo began trending in more than a dozen countries. Strangers wrote heartfelt tributes. "When my parents divorced, I felt like I had no family, but I had Theo. Now I've lost him too. This isn't just nostalgia, this hurts. It feels like losing a brother. The couch won't be the same without him." Outside Phylicia's home, fans gathered with candles, photographs, and flowers. Grown adults wept in each other's arms. Parents brought their children, explaining how Malcolm had been part of their own upbringing. One woman whispered to her daughter, "I named you after him." It wasn't about celebrity anymore. It was about family, the kind you find on a glowing television screen. But that feels just as real as the people in your home. Inside her house, Phylicia could not eat, sleep, or speak. A nurse was called. Grief counselors arrived. Nothing helped. She sat in silence, replaying episodes of The Cosby Show. In one scene, Claire tells Theo, "I love you no matter what." This time, Phylicia whispered the line back to the screen, her voice breaking as if she were speaking to a ghost. Those who were with her described her clutching Malcolm's chain and repeating one line like a prayer. "Give me back my child. Please, God. Give me back my baby." In the hospital, the atmosphere was unbearably heavy. Phylicia sat in the family waiting room holding a photo of Malcolm as a boy, taken during filming in 1987. "That was the first day he called me Mom." Off camera, she whispered through tears. When she was asked if she wanted to see him one last time, she hesitated. But eventually, she walked into the ICU. There he was, lifeless, lying under sterile hospital lights, a small cross dangling from a worn chain on his chest. Phylicia collapsed beside him, pressing her forehead against his. You called me your light, Theo, she whispered, but you were mine. Everyone left the room, even the camera crew. This was not for the world to see. This was a mother saying goodbye to her son. Not long after, a private video surfaced from a reunion dinner just weeks earlier. Malcolm had stood up, raised his glass, and smiled at Phylicia, to the woman who taught me how to be gentle, kind, and strong. My TV mom, but my real-life guardian angel. I love you. That clip spread across social media like wildfire. Thousands of people commented that they were in tears. Others said it confirmed what they always believed, that the love between Theo and Clair wasn't just acting. It was real. More painful details emerged from the hospital. Staff members shared that in his final hours, Malcolm whispered for Phylicia again and again. Mom, is she here yet? Even sedated, his mind returned to her, the woman who had guided him since his teenage years. Debbie Allen, Phylicia's sister and a legendary actress herself, later told reporters, I've never seen my sister like this. It's like something inside her broke. As funeral arrangements began, Phylicia made one heartfelt request. Malcolm should be buried with the chain he gave her in 1988. Engraved on it were their initials, MJW plus PR. It was his way of saying, I never forgot. She spent hours sitting beside his body, reading old letters he had written during the early years of the show. One note read, You believed in me when I didn't know how to believe in myself. I owe every good part of me to you. Outside the hospital, fans left flowers, handwritten notes, and posters. Some messages read, Thank you, Theo, for teaching us how to laugh, cry, and grow. Clair Huxtable, we grieve with you. This isn't a TV loss. This is family. Across America, reruns of The Cosby Show aired in tribute, but they felt different now. Every smile, every laugh, every hug between Theo and Clair was now tinged with sadness. What once felt like comfort now felt like looking back at a happier time that could never return. Why does this loss hurt so deeply? Because Theo Huxtable wasn't just a character. He was a reflection of us. He was the teenager who messed up but tried again, who laughed at himself, who showed that even in mistakes there could be love and learning. He reminded us that families could be complicated but still full of forgiveness. He was the older brother we wished for, the son we hoped to raise, the friend we wanted beside us. And Malcolm-Jamal Warner gave life to that role with warmth, humor, and honesty. He carried it not just as an actor, but as a human being who understood the responsibility of being loved by millions. The night she finally stepped outside, Phylicia was dressed in black. Her face was swollen from crying, her hands trembling as she held onto that gold chain. Reporters asked her if she had anything to say. She spoke only 3 words, not my Theo. Those words were broadcast around the world, breaking hearts, all over again, because if the strongest TV mother of all time could fall apart, then it was clear that something sacred had truly been lost. The loss of Malcolm-Jamal Warner is more than the passing of a beloved actor. It is the closing of a chapter in our cultural history. For those who grew up with The Cosby Show, it feels like saying goodbye to childhood itself. We weren't ready. Not the fans, not the cast, and certainly not Phylicia Rashad. Malcolm once said in an interview that he wanted to be remembered not just as Theo, but as someone who brought light into people's lives. And that he did. His laughter, his warmth, and his sincerity made us feel like part of something bigger, a family that stretched across television screens into real homes. Now, the couch where Theo once sat feels empty. The lessons he taught us through humor and heart remain, but the man himself is gone. Rest in peace. Malcolm-Jamal Warner, you gave us love, laughter, and life lessons that will never fade. We weren't ready to say goodbye, but your memory will live on in every rerun, every fan tribute, and every heart you touched. TMZ recently released unseen behind-the-scenes footage that touched millions of people. In the clip, Phylicia leaned over to Malcolm after a difficult scene and whispered softly, You're doing great. Baby. I'm proud of you. That one moment was enough to bring millions of views online. But it wasn't just a viral video. It became a painful reminder that people weren't only mourning a character on a TV show. They were mourning decades of shared memories, a cultural era, and a sense of childhood safety that suddenly felt broken amid the grief. One moment stood out above the rest. A former writer from the show posted a memory online, saying that Malcolm once told him, "If I ever die young, just know I wasn't running away. I was just tired of hiding the weight." At the time, the writer thought it was a joke. But now, those words carry a heavy truth. The phrase "tired of hiding the weight" quickly spread among fans, mental health advocates, and fellow actors. It became a rallying cry, with hashtags trending worldwide. #NotMeTheo took over social media. At the heart of it all was Phylicia Rashad, the woman who, for years, had been seen as the strong mother figure on screen. Now she was grieving in silence, shattered by the loss of someone she loved like her own son. By the time part 2 of the coverage ended, audiences were left with one powerful image: Phylicia standing by a hospital window, looking at the sunset, whispering over and over, "Bring my child back, bring him back." Her pain was not only her own, it felt like it belonged to all of us. And yet, as heartbreaking as this was, the storm had only begun. 3 days after Malcolm-Jamal Warner's death, Phylicia requested a private memorial service. She didn't want cameras. She didn't want a spectacle. She wanted a quiet goodbye with the people who truly knew him, not just as Theo, but as Malcolm. The chapel was small and dimly lit. Family, close friends, and cast members of the Cosby show gathered together. Sabrina LaBeouf held a folded picture of herself with Malcolm from 1985. Keshia Knight-Pulliam, who had played Rudy, was crying uncontrollably in the corner. Even the oldest crew members, camera operators, makeup artists, lighting staff flew in from across the country. None of them could wrap their minds around the silence he left behind. Phylicia eventually stepped forward to speak, holding a letter Malcolm had written to her in 2014. Her hands shook as she read aloud, "Mom, if this life ever gets too heavy for me, I just want you to know you are my anchor. Even when I couldn't breathe, your words reminded me I was still alive." She couldn't continue. Tears filled her eyes as she whispered, "Why didn't I see it? Why didn't I stop him?" Hush fell over the room. Then, from the back, someone gently said, "Because he was too good at hiding it, just like he was good at acting." That single sentence broke everyone. The grief in the room shifted. It wasn't only sadness anymore, it was guilt. People began to realize Malcolm had been quietly struggling for years, covering his pain with smiles and laughter until he could no longer carry it. When they played his final voicemail, left only hours before he disappeared, the entire room fell apart. His message said, "To everyone who ever believed in Theo, thank you. But the truth is, I never knew how to be okay. Not truly, not fully. I hope one day people will understand." Sometimes the ones who smile the most are the ones screaming the loudest inside. By the end of the message, Phylicia was on her knees, sobbing, "Please come back, please. I didn't get to say goodbye." The cast gathered in a circle around her, holding one another like a broken family trying to stay together one last time. The very next day, networks announced that reruns of The Cosby Show would be temporarily removed out of respect. But fans weren't ready to let go. They began posting old bloopers, interviews, and behind-the-scenes clips on social media. Suddenly, lines that once seemed lighthearted began to look like quiet cries for help. In a 2007 interview, Malcolm said, "I've spent my whole life playing the perfect son, the funny one, the good one. But sometimes I wish people knew how hard it was to carry that smile." Back then, no one paid much attention. But now, that sentence was everywhere. People painted it on murals, printed it on candles, and shared it in tribute posts. Even Phylicia shared it with a heartbreaking caption, "He was smiling, but I wish I had looked harder." Within 2 days, crowds gathered outside the old Cosby Show studio in Brooklyn. They left teddy bears, handwritten notes, and DVDs of the show on the steps. In chalk, someone wrote across the sidewalk, "Theo was all of us. We grew up with him, and now a part of us is gone." Then came a message that stunned everyone. Bill Cosby himself, despite being locked away, shared his grief online. "I may be locked away, but hearing of Malcolm's death I haven't cried this hard in decades. He was the best of us, the only one who never turned bitter. And now he's gone, whether people supported Cosby or not." His words reminded the world of the unbreakable bond the cast once shared. Soon after, it was announced that Malcolm's ashes would be scattered off the coast of Costa Rica, the very place where his body had been found. Fans organized a candlelight vigil on the same beach. Strangers who had never even seen The Cosby Show joined in, because this was no longer about a sitcom, it was about a man who gave everything to the world while hiding his own struggles. On July 28th, hundreds gathered on the beach. The waves crashed softly as Phylicia stepped forward with a single flower. She released it into the water, her face etched with pain. Just then, a young boy from the crowd ran up to her and hugged her tightly. The boy looked strikingly like a young Theo, with tears streaming down his face. He whispered, "He made me believe I was smart, that I mattered." That was all that needed to be said. In that one moment, the meaning of Malcolm's life became clear. He wasn't just an actor, he wasn't just playing a role. He was giving pieces of himself to people who needed hope. He was healing others, even while he was hurting inside. As millions processed this tragedy, one truth became undeniable. Malcolm-Jamal Warner didn't just play Theo, he was Theo. And Theo belonged to all of us. His death was more than the loss of a celebrity. It was the loss of a piece of our collective childhood, the comfort of family TV nights, and the feeling of safety that came with it. What hurt the most was realizing that behind the smiles, behind the laughter, Malcolm had been drowning quietly all along. This story is not only about mourning, it's also a reminder. Right now, someone else may be smiling, just like Malcolm, while silently crying for help. It could be a friend, it could be family, it could even be you. Check on the people who seem the strongest. Tell your loved ones how much they mean to you. Look past the smiles, because sometimes the brightest faces hide the deepest pain. If Malcolm's story touched you, let it be more than just a tragedy. Let it be a wake-up call. Share his story. Keep the conversation alive, because while he may be gone, his truth still speaks louder than ever. Rest in peace, Malcolm. We didn't see it then, but now we do, and we'll never look at your smile the same way again.